Chief, I should have given you some sort of line to do in like that deep movie voice for all the promos.
In a world.
Yeah. In a world.
In a world.
There we go.
That's all you get today, except for Braves are in the playoffs.
So my household is probably as energetic about that as your household. So you two
And you're nowhere close to me, so that's pretty cool.
I'm nowhere close to you, but I'm guessing that I'll be getting a plane ticket soon enough to end up down there. But enough about baseball. John, you're in the hot seat right now because you are half of an interview duo right now.
Yeah, we're waiting on Preston.
Other half is running late. He was doing his hair or trying to finally grow a mustache. He saw you and the Chief had ones. He probably went and got like one of the Fenton ones at the store to stick on.
The beauty of live.
I should have worn my mustache.
You should have.
That. And then Preston could have been the only one with that one. Nice.
Yeah, joke would be on him at that point.
Pretty much. But John, we're going to start with you then. Hello. Good afternoon. I was about to say good morning. It might be morning where you are. You're in a different time zone.
No, it's afternoon. We're after lunch at this point.
We discovered the true meaning of adulting is actually knowing the time zones. So we're still working on that.
Something I'm terrible at. So I'm glad we made it work out. And thank you for having me on here. And Preston, I'll go ahead and thank for Preston.
Here he comes. So we're going to tell him that we've been at it for the past half hour or something like that. You know, tell him we're wrapping up.
Seeing if he jumps in.
So he should be here in about 5 seconds. Chief, when he jumps on, I need you to say, hey, thanks for being here.
All right. We appreciate it, everybody. That's a great show.
Yeah, you know,
the
last thing I wanted. I'm so glad I was able to piss off Chief Rhodes in our first conversation together, but you know, somebody's got to do it.
It's all right. We'll let you slide once.
All right.
Way to make me look great, guys. Thanks for making me look like I made solid choices.
Yeah.
Well, you know, now we're here with John and Preston.
What's up, everybody? I hope everybody else logged in for this one. It's gonna be
hopefully
good.
I already see a couple people commenting that are our friends, so at least we have 2 people that are supporting us.
All right. Well, you know, the iPhone boys got a lot to say.
Titles start with mom, just out of curiosity.
No.
Oh, good to know. Well, hey, thank you guys for being here for the relaunch of Firefighter Nation today. We have John and Preston. Preston's from Relentless Rejects. John, what is the name of your show? Because it's going to be the name of your whole new show.
Right. Tailboard Misfits.
Tailboard Misfits. So Preston, you're going to continue with your solo project, but then you two are combining together to have Tailboard Misfits on Firefighter Nation. Pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's right. There was a chief at FDIC that talked about the revolutionaries and how social media is kind of improving the fire service in a unique way than the PIOs of a fire department. So I'm going to continue with my platform based on what that chief said.
Well, the funny thing that I discovered last night is Chief and I were talking about kind of what we wanted Firefighter Nation to be. We were talking about the new generation. I said, I got 2 guys. They're young. They're aggressive. Found out last night that Preston and I are the same age. So that kind of canceled all that out. But we got John. We got
private information. That was private information. I have everybody fooled, so you're not supposed to tell anybody.
You really do. So congratulations on that. Some great genetics there. But yeah. So John, let's start with you. What led you to start your project?
Yeah, so I think Tailboard Misfits was already a thing. So I kind of just took over. It had kind of died off. One of my buddies had started it, and he really wanted me to take it over, and I really didn't want to. I kind of put him off for an entire summer. And it's kind of basic story, but at the department I work for now, we had a pretty significant fire where 3 rescues were made. So, and it was my crew, part of my crew that helped, make the rescues. We had 3 grabs at a 2-story apartment building, and 2 of the 3 ended up surviving. And I was just like, I want to know a way to where we can document this and really just share the experiences that we had and what we did to prepare for it and what led up to it, and really just dive deep into what happened and the fact that we had I want to say probably a 7-month, 8-month probie on the first due truck or first due engine that was able to initiate a ground ladder rescue and then get that victim down and then initiate a window-based search and go in and find the second victim and pull her out. Like, he did that. And that was just a product of the guys that have came before us at my department. And I really just wanted to recognize that. And so we sat down and did 1 episode And then there from one episode, I think I actually saw Preston's social media. I was just like, I'll see what this is about, and reached out to him. And I think we did the second episode, maybe the second or third episode. And it's just kind of kept going from there. And it's been an awesome experience.
I said something about EMS on that episode of episode 2, and that post went viral. And that was John's first time receiving some online criticism for some of the things that we say. And
now I got to
he was
ask
having a hard time with
what you said.
Well,
I do know what he said.
Is it
Do you remember?
Get the new website shut down? If so, never mind.
It won't.
Oh, go ahead,
won't.
John. Go ahead.
I think he just mentioned like in EMS, like what's our job? And it's to take people to the hospital and get them to the subject matter experts, doctors, the surgeons, etc. On the fire ground, like we are those subject matter experts. So we shouldn't be prioritizing, the EMS side of things over that, because we have those people in other places for them to go to. And yeah, the comments ate him. And for whatever reason, I got lumped into that too, alive.
I can tell neither one of you is a paramedic.
I'm a paramedic. We're both paramedics.
Yeah.
You're both paramedics?
I ride an ambulance.
We're going to bring him to the
Sometimes.
Last 3 letters in problems.
EMS.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, see, us old people can teach you guys things every now and then.
Well,
Preston, you're in that old people group now, so.
Well, yeah, but there's spell check online, so I have to like slowly spell problems to even figure out what that even was.
Preston, your project has been around, I want to say for like a year and a half. It's been a hot minute, and it was funny because I remember when you started. I think you started around the same time I started a little hidden project that I was testing theories on people. And you got aggressive and you just shot out of a cannon and you took off fast. How many episodes are you at now?
I just recorded episode number 30 with Chief Rob Fisher, which is why I was a little bit late. So I apologize on that. It's not his fault. Extreme ownership. We had some technical difficulties.
Blame Rob Fisher. Tag him in this.
No, so Relentless Rejects is fairly new because that was rebranded from the Instagram page mostly of Fit Fire Fortitude.
Mm-hmm.
And where Fit Fire Fortitude came from is we were dealing with a time, maybe COVID era per se, but where we were so divided as a nation. We were arguing about sports and politics, and we all became subject matter epidemiologists. We knew everything about what we were supposed to be doing, how to live everybody else's lives. And it became a lot. It became everything I would ever see on social media. The feed was just full of crap. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to filter out what the algorithm is going to feed me. And that was going to be fitness, firefighting, and mental toughness or fortitude. And you know what? It completely changed my daily outlook on things. As soon as I would hop on social media, I was getting that content and that content specifically. So I said, you know what? I'm going to help this by creating a page, Fit Fire Fortitude. The more I got to network and meet people like smoke divers or network with like a Corley Moore, Chief Rhodes, I realized
there with the smoke divers. It was nice.
I started to realize that my fitness was not the best in the fire service because there's some savages out there training in gear every day. As far as firefighting skills, I'm a suburban firefighter, so I have to admit that my firefighting skills aren't what you would see in LA County or the FDNY, and that's perfectly fine. I had to accept that. And then as far as mental toughness goes, I have a 1-year-old baby that runs my house. So as far as mental toughness goes, that is like the tides of the ocean. It changes all the time. And so I realized that me personally, to have a page called Fit Fire Fortitude maybe isn't the best route to go because I'm not a subject matter expert at any of that. And so now I decided to rebrand the Relentless Rejects. And it is really honestly built on a lot of stuff of what Chief Rhodes said in 2023 about organizational vindictiveness. I have been that person that has gone to a conference and tried to come back and bring something of a positive influence, in my opinion, to an organization that doesn't want to experience change. And they have a lot of opinions to tell you about why you should keep your mouth shut and stay in your lane. And, you're just this guy, stay with the status quo, stay in the flock of sheep along with everybody else. And I could not live with myself doing that. I was rejected by those status quo firefighters. So instead of going along with it and listening to everybody else, I ran with it. I'm a reject. I'm not going to stop. Once I went to my first fire conference and realized that the fire service and the brotherhood is much bigger than inside the walls of my own organization, there's no way that lid can be closed on that jar. So I'm going to be relentless. So that's where the Relentless Reject title came from. And I also realized that my story is just a little blip of anything in what the fire service is. So I decided to start a podcast and bring on other people to tell their stories and their impact on the fire service. And hopefully that resonates with other people, like-minded individuals that are on the same journey. So yes, Relentless Rejects, long story. Sorry about that. But that's kind of where we're at today.
So you both have in your title the concept of being rejects, misfits. And it's sad, awkward, funny that buying into the job, being into the job is now considered to be a reject. Chief and I talked about it on the first podcast of the day. We had this big swing where we went into the world of over safety, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And so the concept of buying into the job was so long forgotten, and we made fun of those people and all that. And you guys are really this generation that is bringing that back and saying, no, I'm a fireman and I'm proud of it and I absolutely love it. John, what's the big goal and the big message that you want to, now that you have a home on Nation, what's the one change you want to start creating this year?
I would love
thing that drives you up a wall.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is like, even I see it, at my department, I see it at my volunteer department, is we're very split amongst the old heads, if you will, and the newer, firemen that are coming in and they're learning. I think the best example would be the flowing and moving stuff, right? It kind of traditionally speaking, it was make the fire room, you're eating smoke, you're eating heat, you don't spray water on smoke and get to the fire room. When really now we're teaching these newer firemen, myself included, that like, hey, if it's needed, like we can cool smoke down. We can flow water before we ever see fire. And it's really mixing the experiences and the traditions of the older generations of firemen with the new data and research that is being taught to these newer generation firemen, and seeing a middle ground being met and coming to an understanding that it doesn't always have to be, this is the way we've always done it and this is why. But that would be my ultimate goal, is just to see those two merge together and meet somewhere in the middle, to where we're respecting the experience of our elders, but yet still paying attention to science and data that obviously is, holds its weight in the fire service.
Where do you find the most resistance? Is it the generation above you, or is it a combination of just all generations in the firehouse?
I think the biggest issue is you have the guys that have a ton of experience that is very, very, it's worthy, like it's valuable. The experiences that they've had is valuable. And so they've seen what they've done for so long, work for so long, that really they don't really, not that they don't care, but you can't really tell them anything differently because they've just seen what they've done work for as long as they have. And then you have the newer generation come in and they don't have that experience to back up the data and the research that they might know, but they don't have the experience to back that up. And so really it's a combination of both, right? Like the older generation's more like, I really don't want to listen to you. And the newer generation's like, well, data suggests this. Because if there's one thing that myself included really enjoys is data-driven decisions, right? Like I want to go into this window because that's what the statistics show me. When really like, well, no, we've been going through the front door for the last 30 years. That's where we're going, through the front door. So it's just a mix of both, in my opinion. I don't think one's outlasting the other.
Yeah. One thing I found in participating in all the FSRI research is that even though you were successful at something didn't mean you understood why you were successful at it. So you may have been giving credit to the wrong thing. With me, it was, being a truck guy, thinking that every hole I cut in the roof saved the day and not giving the hose line any credit. But what I found out was we were accidentally like coordinated because of our staffing levels and response. So we were doing it right. We were cutting, by the time we got the hole cut, the line was in place, it was opening up and it was perfect. Everything went out the the top, but my I attributed that whole to the entire success of the operation, and that wasn't the case.
Right. Yeah. You're seeing only, somewhat like one side of things. And, I did see that comment come across. I think I went to Nozzle Ford, and I'm going to paraphrase because I know in his class he's talked big about please don't quote him if I'm not going to get the exact quote. And so I don't know if it's the exact quote, but Aaron Fields in his presentation made a comment, and he was like talking about this experience thing in the fire service. And he made a comment somewhere along the lines of like, if you can't explain to me your experience and tell me why something happened the way it did, then I don't care about your experience, right? The other quote is the best teacher is experience. Well, it's actually evaluated experience. Did you learn from it? Can you dive deep into why something happened the way it happened throughout that call or that fire or whatever it is? Evaluated experience is actually the best teacher.
Yeah. Difference between knowledge and understanding.
Very much so. Yep.
All right, Preston, you're up. Hot seat. What's that one thing that you're on a mission to try to change this year?
Well, my mission is to change that aspect of what you talked about of like, why is it weird to be into the job? Why is it weird to have this passion and to focus on firefighting on your off days? And I hate to label this with millennials, but we have been given this message of work-life balance, right? I have been told, hey, we run a 48-96. When you're off of your 48, just don't even think about the fire service. Don't even check your emails. Go fishing, go mountain biking, do whatever you got to do, and then come back and just do your job. And then people will say, this is a job. Just run your calls into the master calendar. But I think there are a lot of individuals in the fire service that have a higher calling than themselves. They need a purpose to be able to get out of bed every morning and feel confident that they are on a path, on a righteous path. And I think that's where the Relentless Rejects and conferences like FDIC and every single mini conference that you see around is trying to put those like-minded individuals and give us a voice. So that way, when we go back to our organizations, we actually can maybe take over that mindset a little bit and say, hey, we are professionals. We are subject matter experts. The community has these expectations of us. The oath is more than a ceremonial high five for a promotion, right? And I've actually watched this at fire academies where the rookies are up there, they raise their hand and they take the oath. And then I ask them, do you know what those words meant to you? What do they mean to you? And they were like, I don't know. It's just what I had to say to get my badge. And I think that is the mission that John and I and other like-minded individuals should be on, is to bring the glory back into this and let people know that having a passion and having a bigger purpose than yourself, being a firefighter, is very important.
I think part of the culture of making fun of people who are into the job, because I'll admit it, that was absolutely me when I was a young firefighter, was making fun of everyone I claimed was 8 up. And what I realized as I was older, what I was viewing as 8 up was, or people into the job, was somebody showing up in a t-shirt at the grocery store all the time. That's all they wore, all that. That's what I always viewed as being into the job. And then I would go home and be working on a fire service project. And I didn't view myself as being into the job or 8 up or any of that, because I'm not wearing a t-shirt when I'm going out. I think we've confused making firefighting your whole personality socially and being obsessed with learning this job and mastering this job. And we've called this into the job, when in fact, this is into the job. And I think that's a big misconception that we need to get rid of, because no, we all come home and we all Monday morning quarterback what we did the day before. All of us. That's good. Don't obsess about it. Don't make everything about your life, your family, your personality, but be into the job. Mm-hmm. 2 very different things that we confused.
Yeah. I think more than anything, I hate the phrase, I'm just not that into it, when you're talking about the job. Like it just sends like chills down my back when I hear that, especially, hearing it from a company officer level or, even like a more senior fireman level. Is just like, man, you hold your crew's lives in your hand every day, because at the end of the day, we all understand that our job is inherently dangerous. And, if you do work somewhere where you're going to fires more often than not, like, you should be a little into it more than what you're, alluding to. So it just drives me nuts when people are saying that they're just not that into it. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I really don't understand it.
When I get on an airplane, I hope the pilots are really into flying.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No
I hope
kidding.
they're rather obsessed with their knowledge base.
Mm-hmm.
I had a extremely hard landing in Columbus, Ohio last week, probably the hardest ever, and actually gave me some stiff neck whiplash. And I thought it was pretty ironic. Not only was it hard in and just a big slam, but then we were way too fast, and we were actually like doing the old forward and then back, forward, like the brakes were pumping, and we slid a little bit. And the flight attendant came on, and she goes, "Oh, ladies and gentlemen, as you are all well aware, we have landed in Columbus."
That's a nice recovery.
Whew. That was the first time
Yeah.
I've had anything like that, and I fly quite a bit. But hopefully, they were training somebody.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think another reason why the into the job firemen, the real ones, the ones that actually go out to trainings and bring it back, and they actually have search skills and data techniques, and the reason why we're doing things, and they're bringing it back to the departments. I think the reason why a lot of people are rejected for doing that is because those senior firefighters or people that are our peers don't know those things, and they don't want to be exposed.
Yep.
So instead of allowing you to run with this and to expose them, they just try to shut you up and be like, "Hey man, it's Saturday. We got college football on, man. We're not doing that shit in the Bear today." You know what I mean?
I'm going to throw a wrench into that. As an old person, you know, staring at retirement in a couple of years, I think something that's always made me roll my eyes is the fire service has been so indecisive and cyclic with some of the stuff we've done that it's like, oh, here we go again. You're trying to teach me something that I'm going to find out is fake in 5 months. And we've done a horrible job about vetting things in the past. And so that's a cultural problem we've created with wanting people to be excited about learning, because it's like, oh, teach me something that you're just going to change and I'm going to find out is fake in 2 months.
My question to that would be, honestly, and I just look at it from this standpoint, right? Because a lot of the generational stuff and us as millennial, or at least me as millennial, sorry, I don't want to group y'all into that. It's just like we do question why a lot. And my question being like, I know it's like beating, you know, a horse with a dead hammer, but like the whole nozzle debate, right? And we started with smooth bores, and then we interjected with the fog nozzles, and it's just like, did we even question, and I wasn't there, so this might be more of a question, did we even question the data suggesting that we should have, you know, a fog nozzle on the inside of a structure fire, you know, specifically residential structure fires, when we have documents like Lloyd Lehman's documents saying like, no, like these are meant for shipping container fires more or less. But now like we have that data that suggests, you know, a lot to in the favor of smoothbore nozzles, you know, not saying that fog nozzles are obsolete. I'm not trying to start a war online or anything, but that's just an example. Why don't you
bring up pistol grips, John? I mean, while you're at it.
I didn't mean that, but it's just like it's low hanging fruit. But like,
EMS,
did we
fog nozzles, pistol grip? You were on a roll.
We're here for it. Like that's the point of the podcast, right? Wow. But like, did we question the data, or did they say like, this is just what you need? Here you go. And I'd imagine there were still some outliers out there that were questioning the fog nozzle, you know, being implemented. But now we have data and research that suggests, and you can go onto YouTube and look at videos and tick videos and see the work that the smoothbore is doing versus, you know, the 30-degree fog pattern or whatever the case may be. So like, there's data now, and they're vetting. I think like what you said, they're vetting everything a lot more now because they're going to get eaten alive if not.
Well, and I think that is a great aspect of the generation that asks why, because my generation was told, shut up and do it. This is what we're doing. Well, now if I'm asking why and you don't have a solid answer, it's just, well, I saw this one guy doing it on YouTube, you know, then, okay, well, come back and teach me when you can tell me why. And I think that's great. That means people are being taught the correct thing the first time around, and muscle memory has a chance to survive and thrive.
Yeah. Technology has also taken the control of the data and the creation of the data outside of the hands of people who are controlling the agenda.
Mm.
So just like with the, that all came from either a national, like the National Fire Academy or a big research group or something like that. Now, I mean, look at Firefighter Rescue Survey, started in somebody's home office and still run by guys, on the street, but they're able to collect that data and share it unfiltered, inhibited by anything. And so it's like they say, information's power. And with the internet, with social media, we have so much contact. We don't have to go to the once a year Chiefs briefing to get the information and come back and disseminate it. So actually makes progress speed up, but it also does the same as that guy coming back from the conference. It creates threats, because if you're not up on the data, then you want to, you do the same thing with the data as you do the guy that comes back from the conference. You try to discredit it. And I see that, a lot. And it's power. It's all about power and being, your reputation and power. Instead of saying, I need to look at that, they just start shutting it down.
Yeah.
I think in respects to what Firefighter Nation is also doing, trying to address a lot of things outside of like the technical things that fire engineering is already addressing, that I've been working on is, instead of coming back from a conference and saying, hey, Mike Champo taught me this is what we need to be doing in our organization, is work on yourself, become someone with credibility and worth listening to, become someone worth listening to in your organization before you try to come back and change the world. Because if you're a young fireman and you get so enthusiastic to bring something back, but you yourself have not done any work to gain credibility within your organization, no one's going to want to listen to you. If you day in and day out have been a leader in your organization and you've cared so much about where your organization is going, your chiefs are going to listen to you more, because they know where your vision and why you are driven to do these things are. Versus, I went to a conference and someone told me this is what we should be doing, and now we should be doing, and we've been doing it wrong for 50 years, even though I've been here for 2.
Yep. 100%. Hey guys, I got to bounce to another deal to help pay the bills. But you guys are great. You're an inspiration to me. So keep it going, and look forward to seeing your work here on the platform. Thanks.
Thanks for coming to hang out, Chief.
All right.
Thank you, Chief. Preston, on that note, it's always been something that's driven me up a wall when you see people get to a certain rank and a certain level, and they suddenly want to start putting their ideas out there so that they can simply have an idea out there. And it's, well, hold on. You're in the firehouse next to mine. And I don't remember you trying to do a drill or do any battalion learning or doing any of that. But now that it's going to go on your resume, suddenly you want to teach about it. And I always butcher his last name, Jordan Legan, who teaches with Nozzle Forward and does a lot of that stuff. He came from my department. And I mean, firehouse, shift, battalion, Jordan was always drilling. Jordan was always teaching quietly. I mean, he wasn't shoving it on you, but the conversation came up, hey, do you mind if I show you a better way? And he was always arranging and training. And when someone like that does that, and you see it, you see them come back from a conference with new knowledge, and they're making sure their home base knows it. And then they're just spreading out to those that are on the fire ground with them. When they want to go up here, you're going to listen because you already saw it being done down here. And that's such a concept in the fire service that unfortunately everybody likes their resume, right? It's the same thing as, why am I going to listen to you if you are a jerk over here? Now that you're up here, I'm supposed to listen to you. It's that same concept of not putting in the work at the bottom.
That is a concept that honestly, and it's such a blanket term, but there's so many different facets from it, but it's leadership. Like, if you would just study leadership from the beginning, and I do understand, I understand the concept and the, I know it's blanketed is what I'm trying to say, but when you get into the specifics of it, right? Like what you're explaining right now is just influence. And, Preston knows this, and some of the guys watching knows this, but I'm a John Maxwell nerd. And he says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So as a brand new guy, if you're explained what leadership is, right? From the bottom up, from the top down, if you know what leadership is, you're given some resources about leadership, And you know that ultimately leadership is nothing more than gaining influence with people, right? Me gaining influence with Preston as my senior firefighter on shift, me gaining influence with my captain at work, my drivers at work, whatever the case may be. Now I go out and I'm working overtime, right? And I have an opportunity to gain influence with someone else. And there's different things you could do, but once you do that, you do kind of create a following more or less. And so as you promote through, people are more likely to follow you, and because you have that influence with them. And it's just a little spoke of that umbrella under the blanket term leadership, because that's all it is.
So part of my role, I get everything that's written comes through me, and I read it and decide, where it goes. And it's really mystified me over the past 6 months how much is written on leadership. And I was sitting there wondering one day, why is everybody into writing about leadership all of a sudden? I mean, it's the most written about thing that we receive. Pretty sure on fire engineering side as well. And the only thing that I can kind of come up with is just as we have gone from departments to organizations over the past 15 years, we have lost a leadership structure and gone to a rank structure. So there has been no leadership. So people are just in this rush to bring it back or try to define what it is, or even just try to create it out of thin air because they've never seen it and it's not there. John, my dad used to do a lot of work with John Maxwell. So everything I know about leadership, that's where that came from. It's a good choice.
Yeah, Maxwell is probably the guy. I think, and I'm a podcast nut myself, but I probably listen to every episode. Preston knows this. Some of the guys watching knows this. I have like a John Maxwell daily devotional. Like he's my guy. He's my best friend, and he doesn't know it.
You really are a Maxwell nerd. Is there
a
poster on a wall somewhere?
Not yet. But I agree with you, because I think that some of Preston and I were kind of hitting on this a little earlier, but the generational stuff, when you break it down, right, like into the different generations, the baby boomers, the Gen X's, the millennials, the Gen Z's, naturally, those boomers that are kind of in our rank structure, right, or that are in our rank structure right now, most likely in the battalion chief, captain, probably the chief level, they're all natural leaders. That's what they've done. That's what they grew up. They're very loyal to their organization. But the Gen Xers, they were always fairly independent. They were great followers. I was telling Preston I'm fairly unique. I feel like I'm not the only one, but I was raised by boomers and I'm a millennial. So I kind of slide into that category the way I was raised of the Gen Xers, but also influenced by the world that I live in today. And so we're starting to see these Gen Xers slide into those captain roles, who for most of their life were left independent by themselves. They were not bad people or not bad workers or anything like that, but they lacked the initiative or intuition on which direction to go. They're very much like, you tell me what to do and I'm going to get it done, the right way. But now you start having, the conflict there. So you start seeing the separation of leadership because those people are moving into those places. And that's why, like, when we come across a leader that's like, that guy's a leader, you just know from being around them. You could tell because they've done the work and they've put it in. They've put in the work to be that person. And then, you could tell the people that aren't, because those are guys that typically their crews aren't getting together off shift. If you have separate bedrooms, they're separated after all the meals, and they really just lack that crew integrity. And I'm not talking about on the fire ground. I'm talking about in the firehouse. Because I've worked on both of those crews, and it's very obvious to see when you have a great leader versus one that's probably doesn't know how to spell leadership.
Chief Johnson talks about in the chat, like allowing ego to get in the way of progress and decision making. And I think ego is one of the biggest things you see in the fire service, but it's really not needed as much as we see it. And I think the good leaders that we see out there are the ones that have humility. They've learned from their mistakes, and they try to lead people based off the lessons they learned from their mistakes. They're not afraid to admit when they don't know something. They're not afraid to admit that they've done something and it didn't work out well, and this is the result of it. And they're trying to guide people in a proper way based off the decisions that they've made in their life. But when ego steps in, we try to act better than we actually think we are. And we overinflate our skills, and we use our rank, the newly promoted officers use the rank to feel like they don't need to get fully blacked out with all their gear on and crawl through, because that's what the younger guys do. I stand over here and I point and I give orders. Those are the ego-driven company officers. Unfortunately, we see a lot of that, but I think with the mini conferences, and just to give a nod towards social media, those are ways of holding leadership accountable now, because we are now able to use different outlets to see what leadership is actually supposed to look like. And so those people are being exposed even when they're trying not to be.
Oh, the social media revolution right now in the fire service is absolutely insane. I absolutely would have been fired if that was around when I was younger, because my opinion would have been way more out there than just having to say it in person. But it's a tidal wave right now of just, nah, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're not living this way anymore. We're not putting up with fake leadership anymore, is really what it is. And it's been so hopeful to see, because even though I'm on the later end of my career, there's a certain way that I don't want to leave the fire service, right? None of us want to walk out and be like, well, I wouldn't do that again if I knew that was what I was going to put up with. No, we want to walk out and be like, best effing job in the world, and look at how amazing it still is. And so to see that being carried forward by this tidal wave is just absolutely amazing. I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, a big driver for me. I use social media to express my opinions about things, and I've ruffled a few feathers in my organization because of the things that I post. But that's because I served 10 years in the United States Navy, and to this day, when people find out I served, what do they say? Thank you for your service. Well, if they had known that probably over 60% of my time in the service, I was getting tattoos, drinking, and chasing women, I still did my job. I was a good little soldier. I followed orders, but I could have done more. Like you're saying, I don't want to retire after however many years I put into the fire service and repeat that same time of my life, that same chapter where I could have done more and I didn't. So now I use social media to hold myself accountable, and then hold that and not so great leadership accountable across the fire service. There's people in my department that come up to me and they're like, "Hey man, that last post, was that about me?" And I'm like, "Nope. But if you feel some kind of way about it, bro, like, I don't know. Like,
if the shoe fits."
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've ruffled feathers and I've been okay with it, because I've also been able to align with like-minded individuals in my journey, and those are the people that matter most.
It's funny you mentioned that, because something that always blew my mind is when I started, when social media came along and I started being outspoken on it about opinions of the fire service, people would always say, "Oh, I can't believe you wrote that." And it wasn't anything. You guys have seen how I write. It's not anything insane, but just simply saying, nope, not the correct way of doing it, we have to change, was such a scary concept to so many people of my same rank and file. And that was always something that very much bothered me, is why are we so afraid? We're the ones running the calls. We're the ones whose asses are on the line. I'm on the nozzle. And you're telling me that something that is destroying my organization, I'm not allowed to respectfully stand up and say, nah. And that's something that's also ingrained in our organizations. And I'm not quite sure where that came from. But I think anyone like yourselves who have been outspoken on social media has heard that. "Oh, you wrote that?" I wrote what?
I try to be a little less controversial than that, honestly. I think I have a theory though, and I don't know, like maybe this is a good place to out it and see if anyone else has a different opinion. But the theory for me is just, I think that the fire service has misappropriated the word traditions, because in my opinion, the hose load that you carry on your engines, that's not tradition. The way you put your ladders in the back of the ladder truck, whether it be tip in or feet in, like that's not tradition. That's just the way you're doing things. The way that you celebrate a rookie getting off their probationary year. We celebrate when grabs are made at our department. We'll go out. That's a tradition. The bagpipes, everything like that. Union halls, those are traditions. But the way that you operate on a fire ground, that's not a tradition. But I think that we've gotten in the mindset of, no, like it's always been that way here. That's our tradition here. And that's not the right way to look at it. And that might be my opinion, but that's not the way to look at things that are honestly ever evolving. Because they're, at the end of the day, they're not really a tradition. They're just the way that it is on your truck, and it can be changed really quickly.
It's a stolen word like brotherhood.
Exactly.
Taken and misappropriated.
Yeah.
Well, Preston, something you and I have talked offline a bunch about is, so you are into the job and you are, in the best way, ate up about it, but you're a brand new dad.
Mhm.
You got a 1-year-old at home. You have a wife at home, and you would like them to like you when you get off shift, and in the next couple of years as well. That I can imagine it is. Oh, I'm a parent myself. I don't have to imagine. It's not easy, right?
Right.
How have you been walking that fine line?
So there's a phrase that's been said a lot, like Cody Trestro with firemanship, John Spira with Fit to Fight Fire. Family first. Family, faith, family, fire. You hear these things in that order specifically. Family should take priority before the fire service. But the problem with being a good spouse and a good husband versus being a good fireman is the glory and recognition. If I run a Relentless rejects page, I get DMs all the time from guys that are like, keep doing what you're doing. This stuff's great. It's making an impact. Da da da. I shared this with this certain person. It's great. Awesome. Blah blah blah. Like, I want to buy your merch when it comes out. You know what that does for guys like me? Like, it makes me feel so like good. Like that dopamine hits, right? It feels great. No one's coming up to me other than my wife saying, "You're a good dad. You're a good husband." There's no conferences that we want to go to anyway about being a good spouse and husband or father. So that is, I think, the struggle for a lot of into the job firemen, because we can go to a conference, find like-minded individuals, get the rah fireman speech, buy the t-shirt, and feel really, really good about ourselves. But day in and day out, when I'm at home and I focus on keeping my baby alive for a day, there's no glory, and no one's rooting me on. No one's liking my social media page for me being able to change a diaper. And I think that is the ultimate struggle, because we are told family first, but it is really hard because we don't get that acknowledgement and that glory behind it. That has to be a personal mission. That has to be something that you look yourself in the mirror every day and you're like, I am going to dedicate my life to my spouse and my child, because I can give everything to the fire service, but when I'm done, it's over. If I give everything to my spouse and my children, that's going to go on for generations. That's where your legacy is continued, is in your family, is in your household. Everybody wants a legacy in the fire service, but there's less than 1% of firefighters that are remembered through the generations.
Oof.
And it's a hard pill for us to swallow.
My wife's calling me out in the chat right now.
I can't see the chat unless it two comments have popped up on there.
Oh yeah, she's calling me out. We've walked through it, like just like through every, I'm sure every into the job fireman has walked through, like, and it was probably a little worse with my wife and I, because at one point she was on the ambulance. Yeah, there you go. She was on the ambulance, working private EMS, and I was on the fire department. So, I'd come home excited about this new found love that I have of firefighting. And that's what our conversations were based off of. And there was no growth in our relationship. And, it took a hit. I'm not perfect, so she doesn't think I'm lying on a live feed, but I feel like I've gotten, she can. I've gotten a lot better at it, at prioritizing it. I am married, and I'm married with 3 kids, and they're all really closely in age. We didn't really waste any time. So 5, 3, and almost 2. So it takes up.
Feeding you.
Yeah. And I'm younger, dude. You got to step it up, bro. Yeah. But anyways, like it does take a lot, and it's taken a lot of, I've walked through it. Yeah. going to chat about hose loads. Jeez. Okay.
Dude,
Hi,
just
Haley. Thank you for watching.
backing that
Appreciate
bus
that.
over, Haley.
ADHD.
Yeah,
Make
but
fun of his mustache next, Haley.
Oh,
please
yeah.
don't. But my whole point in saying that is like, I've walked through it, and I think everyone will at some point, especially whenever you dive off into the fire service and become that into the job fireman. But there becomes a turning point, and hopefully conversations like the ones we're having can hit people before they get to the point of where, my relationship was, or so many others was, and to where you could walk through it together, including them. Like my wife's watching this on the couch right now with my son. Like that's pretty cool for me. Because in the past she would have not cared at all. But she likes the fact that I do these things, and she supports me. And that's just a testament to the work, not that I have done, but us as a family have done, and knowing like, hey, my job is important to me. It is a way for me to honor and serve God, who, we're Christian. We go to church. We believe in Jesus. And it's also a way to provide for you. And the best way for me to do that and be safe and be a good husband and a good father for you is to be safe at work. And for me to be safe at work requires me to learn and to study and to go to classes to be proficient at my job, because being proficient at your job is probably the best safety measure that you can take. And so she understands those things, and we've had those talks, and we've grown through it. So yeah, Josh said, Haley's raising a pretty good husband and man. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. But nonetheless, like I've been there, I've walked through that, and it's an important subject. I'm not someone you want to learn from when it comes to that. My wife will probably tell you that, but it's a very important subject. And if you don't believe that, that's why so many firemen end up getting divorced and end up with broken households. So
Some guy said to me yesterday, well, maybe we were talking about an individual and resiliency and why it's important to teach recruits resiliency. He said, well, maybe some people are just old school tough. And I said, you mean alcohol addictions and divorces? I mean, define old school tough to me. And it's so cool. I can't include Preston in this anymore. Because he's my age. So John, it's so cool to see the younger generation having this opportunity to be ate up into the job, but also be healthy with their family life. Because, and this is not a knock on anyone whatsoever, but looking back at the beginning of my career in the early 2000s, there weren't a lot of happily married individuals who were well adjusted. And the guys who were really, really, really into the job, that wasn't a thing, because the concept of balance just wasn't there. Like you talked about, Preston, family first, right? And how do you manage family first, but this chaotic lifestyle job, and I'm doing all this other stuff to try to make it better. Like it's the line is about that big when it comes to fine line of balancing those two. And I think that's something that your generation, John, and yours, Preston, because you're probably like 2 months younger than me, gets to really experience and figure out how to keep creating it and making it better.
I do want to give credit though, because like, I'll be honest, like I didn't just have these ideals by myself. I didn't just, automatically think this. Like
you weren't born a genius.
Yeah,
John Maxwell gave that to you.
Yeah, no, just like mentors within the fire service that have walked through, similar things, walked through being ate up with the job and it affecting home life, or not prioritizing their family, not even because you're into the job, just in general. So having those mentors that pour into you, like your family at home, is the most important thing, because just like Preston said, at the end of the day, you're going to walk out of the firehouse into your house. So I always think about Chief Thompson, Scott Thompson always says, start with the end in mind. And I think about that in two different facets. At the end of my fire service career, like, what do I want that to look like? And with the end in mind, like, what do I want my relationship with my wife to look like, years from now? What do I want my relationship with my 3 children to look like whenever they get older and are adults? Like, I think about those things often. I'm not perfect. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm perfect. I suck a lot, but I still think about those things all the time.
I wanna call out the firefighters, not call out, but I give advice to the firefighters that are listening. The phrase or mantra that we follow lately, for them, is something that a lot of us are very passionate about. It's why we want to go to conferences, it's why we get in the data, it's why we show up to work and we give 110%. before them doesn't exclude your family. When you get home, that fourth ed mantra continues. So my best advice for firefighters is, if podcasts and conferences and whatever is your motivator to continue to be a good fireman, involve your spouse and your kid. I was at COBC in Pensacola Beach, and I bring my family every year. They are a part of my firefighter journey. I talk to my wife every night before I go to bed at the firehouse, and I let her know about my day and the calls and all that stuff, because if I keep her in the dark, how can she fight for me when I want to go do these things to be a better fireman? I can't just be like, hey, this is for the fire service. This is my career. You stay home with the kid. I'll be back. You're leaving your spouse in the dark, and she cannot be on the same train as you if you don't bring them along.
So in 3 years, we're going to have a big jungle gym and the Lucas Oil experience at FDIC is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's my dream I want to be a public speaker. I'm working on articles for Firefighter Nation. I submitted a second article to you the other day, but I want to be able to incorporate my daughter into my lectures and also have her sitting in the crowd at the same time. Like that is a dream of mine, to have her grow up and see her dad up on stage trying to make an impact. I want to involve her as much as I can.
My husband brought all the kids by the firehouse the other day, and the kids were able to do a drill for the crew on Skibbity, Ohio, and all the other terms. They put them on the board so that we would be able to speak Gen A. It was actually really, really useful. But no,
I still don't know what that is.
Well, we got pictures for you. It is kind of a surreal, cool feeling to be able to let your kids see what it is you really do and to bring them into stuff. I'm looking forward to hopefully one day getting them to want to go to FDIC with me. So, Preston, that'll be a pretty cool feeling for you.
Yeah, it's going to be dangerous, though, because there's going to be certain firefighters trying to sneak them a beer and all that stuff as they come along. But
my children are vicious. They, I get roasted at our kitchen table at work. My children are the product of 2 firefighters, and they are, I'm scared of them. They're on point, man. They'll roast you in a heartbeat. So
I think you should look in the mirror for that one, because you're pretty witty yourself.
That might be where they got it. Who knows? It was the internet. I blame that. But well, gents, we're reaching the end of our time. But listen, we all heard Chief Rhodes' speech, 2024 FDIC. And it just was, it was amazing. Just seeing somebody who has been in a battalion chief role, using the word rebel, calling out people and saying, go forth and be rebellious for the sake of the fire service. And you two have clearly picked that up and run with it. And I am so, so, so excited to see you guys do it for Nation and to take culture and kind of kick it in the face where it needs to be kicked with a lot of different things. And to just, we really have the chance to change firefighting completely this oncoming generation. And I'm looking forward to you two being part of that charge.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on. And just to hype everybody up about Tailboard Misfits coming on in the future, like John and I are a great 1-2 punch. If you haven't been able to tell, John's that scalpel, and I'll probably punch you in the face like with a hammer. So it's going to be a good combination.
No, I'm excited to see that. And I'm really glad we were able to bring you two together in that one podcast. So thank you for taking time and for being here today, for figuring out Central and Eastern Standard Time, John. That was
You're welcome.
Glad we were able to do that, get that on the same page. So well, have a great one, gents. And we will see you. Actually, your first podcast drops this coming Thursday.
Let's go.
You guys are the first published Nation podcast. So congratulations.
Heck yeah. Looking forward to it. Thank you again. It's been fun.
Yeah.
No, thanks for coming on board, guys. And we will see you later.
See ya. Thanks.